5:30. I will call to order the October Board of Trustees of the Bay County Library System. We could all stand to the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Eileen, could you take the roll?
Wonder where Mac is.
Don Carline?
Here.
Steve London?
Here.
Ann Harris?
Here.
Robert LaChance?
Here.
And Frank Quinn is excused at this time.
Okay, the board chair's report. First of all, I'd like to welcome Jeanette Marks, who's the managing librarian of the Pecani branch. She's going to tell us a little bit about hopefully herself and her job and enlighten us a little bit.
Okay, hi, thank you for having me. I am Jeanette Marks. I'm from the Pinconning Branch Library. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, hi, I'm Jeanette Marks from the Pinconning Branch Library, and if you haven't figured out yet, I will talk to anybody anywhere and just keep going. So it is nice to see you all again. I came up to the Pinconning Library 2 years ago, and if you were at the meeting, the board meeting last month where Renee Foley greeted you, you probably saw the change in the layout that we did. That was a staff collaboration. It turned out really well. We're very pleased with it. The other things that we're doing up there that we're excited about, this is the second year we've had the Michigan Traveling Military Museum come and put on a display over a 2-day period. So they set up one day, display 2 days, take down another day. Last year was World War I, this year was World War II. Next year we'll have them up for Vietnam. And we've had teachers come through with their classes, so it's starting to be more of an effort with the school districts too. So I'm not exactly sure what you want to know. So.
Well, let me ask you a couple questions, maybe help out. What is your background? Where did you come from? How did you get interested in libraries in general and becoming a managing librarian and stuff like that?
All right, well, I did move here from Oakland County. We're from Oxford, but my husband was retired. We had planned on downsizing and going to a smaller northern Michigan community when this position opened up. I had not always thought I would be a librarian. I was about the last person to know I would be a librarian, but I always enjoyed reading. My earliest memory is of learning how to read and trying to read to my baby sister. We did not go to the library as a family, so that wasn't on my radar. I worked at the library at Eastern Michigan University in undergrad school, and I really enjoyed it. That's where I got my degree in social work. Still didn't have a clue after working 3 years in an academic library, and then was a social worker for a while, then volunteered in this kids' school media center, enjoyed that, got a clerk job in our local library, really enjoyed that, and it was the director at the Orion Library that talked to me about, you should go to library school. I'm like, oh, you hadn't even thought about that. And you know, sometimes you just get so excited about something, but you just can't see it. So she was wonderful. She was a good role model for me. So I went while I worked and had kids and got my degree and became a librarian.
What kind of changes did you see coming from a bigger community like in Oakland County and coming to Bay County? What are some of the similarities, maybe some differences, things you had to get used to or didn't have to, that kind of stuff?
Well, libraries, for the most part, are very similar in that their patrons are very passionate. It doesn't matter which library you go to, a small town, Detroit, the Detroit Public Library, people are passionate about their libraries, and you have to give them good service. If a library has less than stellar service, If they have failed patrons, it gets in the paper. That's probably the worst thing you can do to your patrons, is fail in their confidence in you and in your leadership. So I take that very seriously.
Any other board members have any questions of Jeanette? Well, thank you so much for coming. It's
Thank you
a
very much. It was a
pleasure having you, and great that you made the effort to come here. We appreciate that. Thank you. Another part of my report is everybody notices what's going out here on Center Avenue, the street being kind of ripped up and repaved. That has nothing to do with the library. That's the city's function. We are losing parking spaces out there, but there's nothing we can do. It's just part of the process that once it's done, we'll appreciate it. But right now, we apologize for any inconvenience, but it's out of our hands. Also, as part of that whole project, they're going to be redoing Battery Park. And I'm going to let Don take a few minutes to tell us about that, because he is part of the spearleading of getting some of that work done. That's going to be a great asset to the city.
Well, I'll start with a disclaimer. None of us were on the board when this all came down, but one of the things that really upset people, particularly the veterans groups, was the fact that they felt that it was destroying Battery Park. Actually, the library itself didn't have anything to do with that. It was the Bay County Commission for Buildings and the Building Authority. And so, in fact, it did sort of destroy Battery Park as far as people's recognition of it was concerned. So I felt that we should restore Battery Park, and so I talked to a variety of people, starting with the library, then going to the city and the county, and the veterans groups. Actually, now Keith Markstrom is one who's the driving force. And what we are anticipating is that the sidewalks which define Battery Park are to be restored. Only a little nicer. They'll be wider so people can use it. When Battery Park was first set up, it was before, well, it was around the time of the Civil War, before the Civil War. And it was intended and served as the town square. And so our hope is that it sort of returns to that kind of usage as well, particularly some of the events related to veterans. We're anticipating that we will have a rededication of the park next Memorial Day. There will be several phases, and overall, I do need to say that when I had the idea, I thought we could do something for $5,000 or $10,000. Keith Markstrom has taken it over, and it is now in the neighborhood of $160,000. But there are 3 or 4 different phases, and we will simply move on them as funds are acquired to provide the various phases. First phase will simply be the sidewalks, benches. At one time there were 4 cannon, actually 2 mortars and 2 cannon. The 2 mortars came from Sumter, and one of the cannon came from the flagship of Admiral Farragut. And so included in the restoration, Keith Markstrom is hoping we can replace the cannon. They'll be made from scratch to correspond to what was there originally. The cannon were all taken away during World War II for scrap and during the metal drives. I think that's maybe more than you needed to know or more than you wanted to know.
Information is good to have, and I think sharing
I'd
that.
be glad
with
to
everybody is
answer
good.
any question.
Thank you. Before you see, I found the latest Pew Research dated September 2015. And it's rather interesting to go through this stuff because what it does, it kind of gives us a futuristic roadmap of where things might be going in libraries. And this is across the country, the nation, not just in Bay County. And it poses the question, who uses libraries and what they do at their libraries. If you go over to page number 2, and you go down here at the bottom, it says library users are evident throughout the population. And below that, it gives a breakdown. 56% of college graduates paid in-person visits to a library during the last year, and then 52% between the ages of 16 and 29, and 52% of those with annual household income of $30,000 to $50,000. So what does that tell you? That kind of tells you who some of your who our clientele are, and to pay attention to that. If you go over to the next page, page 3, and women and those with higher levels of education are more likely to have used a library in the last year. And if you notice, it goes by gender, male, female, and then it goes by ages and all the way down the line by income, but it travels 2012, 13, and 15. And one common denominator, you notice that in 2012, females, 59% of them used the library, as opposed to 48% of males. But going to 2015, 52%. So we look at our numbers every month that is supplied by the administration, and we see that there's some declining numbers, and we wonder, is this indicative of Bay County? No, it is, but it's indicative of the entire nation in terms of library usage. So we are we're a small part of the larger scheme of the whole country, but yet this really solidifies and says that, we're not alone, it's going on. As to why it's going on, it did not say. We could all make suppositions as to why. The household incomes, I found interesting. If you made $75,000 plus, which is a lot of money, 50% of those this year use the library. 30 to 50,000, 52% use the library. And you can go down and read this. Suburbanites tend to use the library more than anybody else. Going to page number 5, you can compare this to the last page. This is women, parents, and those with higher levels of education are more likely to use a library website. Not the actual physical library, but a website or a mobile app. And if you take a look at females, 26% were, as opposed to 18% of males. And it goes down the line, who actually uses websites. You would think that the most avid users would be those between 16 and 29. And it is. But it's also tied with people from 30 to 49, who also, 28% of those used a mobile website or that. If you go take a look at, let's see, we'll flip over. This is, I found interesting on the next page, page 6. Borrowing of printed books, the hard copies that you borrow, and you asking, going into a library and asking a librarian for assistance reference, if you will. And in 2012, 73% of those who visited 16 years or older who visit a library borrowed a printed book. In 2015, 66%. It shows exactly what we're seeing in our data. And then you can read this as well as I can, but it's interesting. Because this gives us a blueprint of where the country is right now, and we should pay attention to that, I think. And another thing, the last thing I'll cover is on page 8, and it says people use the library websites for a variety of purposes. And 82% search for library catalogs, which you'd expect. The two groups that actually went up from 2012 to 2013, why they used the website, was to read book reviews and get book recommendations. That went up from 30% in 2012 to 33%. So people are using that for probably different reasons than we would think they would. And to borrow, download e-books, you'd expect that to go up because more and more people have Kindles, have iPads, have readers, and that indeed has gone up. And I suspect for the next research that will continue to go up. And the last is on the page 9. People think libraries can be helpful in learning and information sharing activities. I wrote a little note. We can learn from how we are perceived. New avenues for servicing the public. And we take a look at this, and 36% they used a lot of the library to seek health information. And you go down here and you take a look at finding out about volunteer opportunities, 24%. Well, I look at this, even though that may be a little low, there's an opportunity perhaps for a library down the road to take and build some programs based on that to bring those numbers up. So yes, they're low, but it's also a kind of a light perhaps shining out. It's a possibility if somebody were to take that and run with it. Pursue job training, 19%. Thought the libraries helped a lot. 29% somewhat. There's an avenue for perhaps improvement. So anyway, take it, read it at your leisure. There's a lot of information there that points to where libraries are now and compared to things in the past, and it certainly paints a little bit of a picture of where we're going. And if nothing else, it confirms the fact that we are not alone in the library world. Our problems are shared by many libraries around the nation. Okay, moving on. Is there a minute to approve the September meeting of minutes? Well, take these separately because we had a closed session.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any additions, corrections? Anybody need to change anything in the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The closed session minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Well, I think we've all had a chance to read those. Does anybody have any additions, corrections? Is it accurately reported?
Do we have to say a little bit more about what the contract extension was? Down at the bottom about approving contract extensions? So the public knows what we actually did. It's a one-year extension.
Does it, do we only have one copy of that? You know? Yes, okay. We'll share, like good people. Okay.
He's got the last page of
Oh, very good.
the, just coming out.
Contract extension as discussed by the closed sessions.
It just,
What would you, how would you change that? I mean, other than do,
for 1 year. Contract extensions for 1 year as
all right,
discussed.
so add the 1 year in there to
Okay.
clarify what it was done for, like, that's
For the
fine.
public, right?
Yeah, we can do that.
Can we make that a correction?
Yes.
I should have brought that up earlier, but I
Okay,
didn't see it.
no, that's a good point, because that's what we did, it was for 1 year. With the correction, reading in there that we extend the contracts for 1 year, and you will make the changes. Everybody, all those in favor of approving that with a language change, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. Bills payable, pages 4 to 10. And you reviewed our bills?
Yeah, everything was fine, and I noticed a certain amount was dedicated to increasing our puppet collection, which I was pleased to see. And also, I want to comment on the continued growth of our electronic media. I have a neighbor, she's 84, and she was telling me she and her sister, who's 87, and another one who's in her 90s, they all bought Kindles. And they came to the library, they received instruction on how to use them, and she said until she got her Kindle, she did not have a library card. And she's reading like crazy. And she loves it because she can make the font large or small. She can read in the dark with the light. And here's these two seniors in their 80s and one in their 90.
Doing e-books.
And they're checking out their electronic media and enjoying it. So but what is so pleasing to me is that the librarians are keeping everything in a balance. It's not top-heavy in one area. So I just wanted to comment on that.
I have a question. When you do a Kindle, I do my iPad, download all the time, but is Kindle proprietary where you have to download to your computer and then from your computer to your Kindle, or how is that done?
I want to say if the Kindle has Wi-Fi capabilities, you can do it right directly to the.
Didn't that originally, when it came out, there was some kind of convoluted way you had to do it because there was some argument about proprietary?
Side loading.
That's been done now, away with?
Yes.
Well, if you still have an older model, you still have to do that.
All right.
It really depends upon the model you have.
So the newer, like the newer Kindles.
Right, you're
you-
just on the device.
Yeah, on the Wi-Fi, like an iPad download.
Yep.
Yep, you put your Overdrive app on there and away you go.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments, Ann?
No,
Okay,
Second.
what's that?
We need a second.
We need a second to that motion for approval of the bills payable.
Second.
Second by Don. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The financial report, pages 11 to 14. 11?
All right, let's see, we'll take you on page 12, we'll start with page 12, which is our revenues. The bulk of our revenues are in. We're just now, as we head into, we're in September. What you have in front of you will be the last quarter, October, November, December. The bulk of, like I said, all of our property taxes are in. We will hopefully, continue to receive our penal fines, and hopefully those numbers continue to come in. And then we'll just receive other miscellaneous revenue as far as interest on investments and fines and fees. And I think the bulk of our state aid is in also. So as far as revenue, the overall revenue picture is actually coming in good as anticipated. And of course, again, the one thing that continues to carry us on the positive side, of course, is penal fines. And for the month of September, as we can see, penal fines came in at $38,236. And so those came in $11,000 ahead of what we budgeted. So revenue-wise, we're doing really good. On the expense side, I should say, everything is, trending as expected. We're not experiencing any unusual expenditures, just normal day-to-day operations. The bulk of our programming, as far as SRP, is over, and now we'll head into the fall and winter. The big reindeer programming will be coming up. But as we head into the end of the year, we, as of right now, don't anticipate any issues on the expense side. And page 14, the penal fine report again. I just want to point out now, we're 9 months through the year, and we've already hit our annual amount that we budgeted. So basically, the last 3 months of the year in penal fines will be above and beyond what we budgeted. So again, we're having a good year for penal fines, and we hope those continue. That is all I have. If there's any questions, I can answer that.
Go ahead. Mac?
The way I read that, page 14, we're about 81,000 over budget on penal fines.
Through the first 9 months, if you look at budget to actual, yep.
Right.
Yep.
I'm sure administration has had some discussions about what we might want to do with that money. Are you going to wait till the end of the year to share it with us, or do you have any ideas yet?
No, we will just, as issues come up or things that we need to Trish and I are always looking at that and coming up with different areas to improve libraries. One of the things you talked about is digitization of some of the reference stuff. And so she's working with Mark Grolution, and they're trying to see, and so that might be one area that we could possibly use a bulk of that money to do some of that. And the other areas that we always look at is technology. We're looking at always to increase or replace older computers, looking at now getting Microsoft Office packages and different things like that on the computers. So when we do have these occurrences where revenues do come in higher, that allows us to speed up some of the stuff that we might have had to wait till next year to do. So yes, we're always looking at looking to improve things that serve the public. So if they're big items, we'll definitely be bringing them to you. Yes.
All right.
Page 11, I've probably asked this in prior meetings, but humor me.
No, go ahead.
The certificate of deposit of $6,200,000 and some thousand,
Yep.
is that one certificate deposit or a number of them?
That's just the certificate of deposit account that we have, which is the investment pool over at the county with county treasurer. So that represents different amounts of pots of money.
That come due at different times?
Yes, yes, yeah, we have the money over there in his investment pool, then he takes it along with other county units, he pools the money together and invests them, so, that's our amount that we have.
And are they and we required to put all that extra money in certificate deposits to fulfill our fiduciary obligation?
No, he'll do commercial paper,
Right.
he'll do minimal money market accounts, he'll leave some in money markets because it's short term and he can move it in and out, but he'll do CDs and commercial paper, maybe some small short-term T-bills, but it's mainly commercial paper and certificates of deposit. Commercial paper will get a higher rate than a certificate of
Well,
deposit.
that's good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we've had the discussion, now we need the motion to receive both the financial report and the penal fine together. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. We've had our discussion. All those in favor of receiving the financial report and the penal fine signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The administration report. Is there a motion to receive?
So
I move we receive the administration report.
Moved by Mac. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Don. Or Ann. You can, whichever
Don.
one you feel like writing. You both did it. All right, Kevin.
All right, briefly here, big program we had in September, Jonathan ran, big hit with kids. He does the American Chillers and the Michigan Chiller books. Kids just love them. So that's why we have to hold it at the State Theater. And on October 8th, we did that. Well, people started lining up at 5 o'clock. Doors didn't open until 5:30. Had over 300 people attending. And he stayed, he is really good working with the public. He stays after and signs everyone's books that they want. And he interacts with the people, and he does a great job with the public. So we've had him up here like 3 or 4 times now in the last 8-10 years, and people still line up to see him. He does a great job. 3D printers, as you've seen the 3D printer at the prior board meeting display. Walt now went around and did presentations at all of the branches for the public to stop in and get a feel for what the 3D printing buzz is all about. And we will continue, the managing librarians will continue to come up with ideas on how we can have the 3D printers be interactive with the public and start incorporating that into some future programming. So we're still working on that, rolling that out, and hopefully we'll get the public a chance to play with that more. Changes coming on our Horizon, which is our circulation database. On the public side of it, when a patron will log into their account, that is called Horizon. And so what we're doing is we're getting an upgrade to what's called Enterprise. And so on November 16th, it's going to enhance the patron's capability to do searching. It's going to be a new look. It's almost going to give them a feel like they're browsing and doing stuff like on Amazon, and it's going to be a really nice new upgrade for the system. patrons will have the opportunity to go on, and if they find an item that they like, a book, there'll be something they'll be able to click on, and they'll actually be able to buy the book too, if they wanted to not only see if we have it, but then if they really like it, they can go ahead and make that purchase, and then it'll take them to a vendor that can provide that for them. Along with that, we are also going to be rolling out the library's capability to start accepting credit cards. Enterprise has a feature with it. The enterprise side will allow a patron from home, if they were to log into their library account, if they have overdue fines or if they have a fee that they needed to pay, they'll be able to do that from home by entering their credit card number. And if they wanted to make a donation to the library system, they'll be able to do that with this system. In-house, in the library, what we're going to do is we're going to use the Square. The Square is a little square white device that gets plugged in on top of, say, an iPad. And we just now, with the new technology requirement of having the chip reader, we waited until that was a requirement, and we just actually ordered that a couple days ago. We'll be having that. It'll be showing up hopefully by Friday. We'll use Word as the experimental branch to start doing it. And eventually, by the first of the year, we'll roll it out to all the branches. And it's also can be used on the bookmobile. So we will be doing that, and we're setting up new accounts to handle that, to have the money deposited into account. And so that's a new feature we'll be having for the public as we roll into the new year. November 1st starts our Gift of Reading program, and that will go through December 5th. Again, Gift of Reading, anybody can make a donation of money or a new book to the library system. And what we do is we work with over 8 to 11 organizations, Salvation Army, the Nathan Widener House, the Women's Center, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Bay City and Pinconning. So we try to get as many organizations in the community, and we provide them a book for as many children that they are serving. And so we give them free book to kids. And so again, if anyone wants to make a donation, they can, or drop off new books at any library branch. And that is it for my admin report.
Thank you. Any questions, comments to Kevin?
A comment we read every once in a while about comparable organizations getting ready to order a 3D printer, and I'm thinking, hey, join us. We're ahead of the game.
Thank you. I think it's great that we're finally doing credit cards. You're going to use the square up method? It's pretty reliable.
Who pays the fee, the credit card?
We do.
We do pay the fee.
2.75.
2.75, yep.
Okay, all those in favor of receiving the administration report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Open to the public. You can go up to the podium and state your name and your address and tell us what's on your mind, sir.
Hello, my name is Rick Luzak. I live in Bay City at 1707 Fremont. I came here to briefly discuss the subject that came up about 2 months ago. I spoke with the head librarian here. I believe his name is Mark. And the first thing I want to say is he was very professional, courteous, and helpful to me to help me understand one of the library's policies or practices. And what I'm referring to is it's well, whatever the policy is called. Let me just describe it by the way it affects me. I do a lot of study of the Bible, and I have used reference books on the second floor. Well, they're not. I didn't mean that technically. I used some of the books in that particular section which are on that topic of the Bible. And I was shocked to go to that familiar section and to discover that this set of books that was there for a long time was gone. And in fact, I noticed that in that section, in fact, I just checked it before the meeting, it's really been purged of a lot of books. And I think every shelf of those 2 units, the bottom shelves are actually empty, and the rest of the shelves are, on the average, only half full. In other words, there's a lot of empty space in there. And I was really shocked by that, to see this set of books that I refer to often having been removed. And I asked him about it, and he showed me a Xeroxed, it must have been a handbook that he got at a seminar someplace. It falls under the topic of library science and managing your inventory of books. And although he was professional, courteous, and helpful, I really disagreed with what was going on, because from my standpoint, from a patron standpoint, it doesn't help me to go to a bookshelf that's empty or half empty. It doesn't help me. I go there and I'm now staring at a shelf that used to have some books on it, and so I can't. I don't want to belabor the point further than saying, whatever you're doing, I think it's a little bit too aggressive. That is one section of, that's one area of the library where I've seen that effect. One of the other areas that I visit are the woodworking books on the far west end of the second floor. And there were some books that I referred to frequently, depending on the project I was working on, and that area has been sort of, in my opinion, over-aggressively purged. So that's the first point I wanted to make, and the second point is I didn't really discuss the subject with the head librarian, but I was curious as to what happened to those books. The particular set of books that I was referring to is something that is called the Interpreter's Bible, and I looked up on the internet at alibris.com, which is a used bookseller, and the used book price per volume is around $32. And so those books do have a market value, and so that is one of the factors that he showed me in his little handbook that he had. But my second point is that if these books, it's inevitable that the stock of books in the library is going to turn over for a whole number of reasons. But like I say, I don't know what happens to them. And when it comes to that particular set of books, there's like a dozen volumes in that set. If it were, if you, all these books you're taking off the shelves, if you put them in that concession area there and let the public browse through there, I would have made an offer on those books because they were actually very high quality books. And so I know you have an annual book sale, and maybe these books just got diluted in with the tens of thousands of other books that were there, which doesn't help anything. I'm at the point in my life, my knees are killing me, and it would be difficult for me just to go through the endless tables full of books searching for those ones that I was most interested in. There was a third book that I was looking for. I actually recommended its purchase last year. It was a book called Kahn's Current Therapy, which is a medical textbook. It was in the vicinity of $85, and it's a textbook for physicians, but also for the general public to read a description of disease and what the diagnosis is, and and as the title implies, what the current therapy is for that condition. And the library was very kind in accommodating me in purchasing that, and I did look at it, and in my age I have several problems. I keep finding new problems all the time, and so I went back to look up Kahn's Current Therapy, and it was gone. It had fallen victim to this purge policy, and this was in the reference section. And it had been replaced by something called Lang's. And I asked my primary care physician about this, and he said that that Lang's was one of the equivalent textbooks, medical textbooks that's used. So I just thought, well, yes, it is updated annually, and of course that is quite important in medical practice. But even when I worked at the hospital, they didn't arbitrarily just throw them away and update them every year. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Just to emphasize that I think they've just been way too aggressive in this policy. And the head librarian assured me that all these empty shelves, he said, well, we'll be buying books and putting them in there. But really, it seems you ought to let them hang around a little bit more. You know, in his policy book and his training manual about this, you know, there's two ways of looking at everything. If a book is kind of well worn and everything like that, that puts it on the hit list because of its condition is degrading, and the library wants to present good materials, you know, that are in good condition. On the other hand, if a book shows a lot of wear, it's probably because it's very popular and it's used a lot. And so there's no clear, no exact policy, hard and fast policy. There's a lot of discretion involved in these policies. There is no formula that I read as I glanced through this book. And so I would just make a plea for pulling back on this. And I don't like going up into those sections and seeing all these empty shelves. I don't know what purpose that serves. You're supposed to have books, and when I see books, favorite books like this disappear, I'm very disappointed by that. I don't know what the lady was referring to as having patrons of the library who are dissatisfied with the library service. I suppose there could be every reason under the sun for that. But right now, this is the main issue that I'd like to call to your attention. I think that there's too much heat under the kettle. I think, well, in fact, it's too late for some of the favorite books that I like to look like. They're gone. their history. I hope that what he says is true, that some comparable books are put back on the shelf. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Do we have a weeding out is what term, I guess. Do we have
We do, we have a process that we use to weed books.
Yeah.
And it is at the discretion of each department, each branch, each like section in the library has a person assigned to it, and we all use pretty much the same criteria. Of course,
part of that criteria would be like how often a book is actually checked out?
checked out, right, right. And that's the only way you can do it. Now, if, for example, if someone keeps coming into the library, takes it off the shelf, sits there and reads it, all right? And so that's not getting checked out. And so if someone keeps doing that, and after 3 years, you run a report and say, well, this book hasn't been checked out in 3 years, well, that's on the hit list. Even though someone in the library might be using it, there's no way to know and keep track of that. But they do make sure there is a replacement or comparable book, so we don't lose like that genre's knowledge
When you
within
weed
the
a
library.
book, does it go to the
Friends book sale, correct. Goes to Friends book sale, and or within each library's branch, they have their own little used book sale section, so the public has a way of getting those items there. So yes, they all go to the Friends book sale and then they sell them. So.
All right, correspondence.
No, next.
You have another comment?
Yeah, I wish you had hung around. We seldom get public input.
Yeah.
And seldom quite so measured and articulate.
Yes, I was going to actually surmise or give a summary of what his concerns were, but
Right.
the gentleman left, but I think we all understood what they were, and, you know, that's why I asked you the question, so there is a criteria. All right, moving on to correspondence. We have a few of those tonight. Is there a motion to receive the correspondence?
So moved.
Moved by Don, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mac. Briefly, Mr. Calvin Ozolski wrote about the tree out front, and he was concerned with the fact that it was a leaning, and Calvin, you addressed that with him, did you not?
Yes.
How was that resolved?
Good. What we're going to do is, there's some stuff that's going to be going on out here with Battery Park. We'll have one of the specialists from Bay Landscaping, when they come and deal with some of the issues there, we're going to have them rectify that situation for us too, along with our maintenance staff. So we'll take care of that.
Una Pierce wrote, said that the library was very helpful and what a beautiful library. Appreciate that. And Ken Witticki wrote, he was concerned with the fact that if he loses a book or somebody does, why would you charge full price for a book that's been used, etc.? I think you addressed that one too.
I did talk to him. He did two things. He said, why don't we accept credit cards and debit cards? As I reported earlier, we are in the process of doing that. And then his other issue was the fact of, nowadays you can go on any website and get a book for like $3.95 and onesies and twosies, but we work with specific vendors and we have processes set up where we have ordering systems in place, so we can't basically be shopping for individual books on all these websites. We just don't have enough manpower to be doing that. So what we do is when the book comes in, brand new, that price gets loaded into our system, so it lets us know what we paid for it, and that's just the price that we ask for them to replace it with, because as we try to point out, once you check a book out, you return it and it's available for the next patron. If someone loses that book, you now are not allowing that next patron to use that book, and that's all we ask the public is we just want the books back, basically. And if we have to replace it because it is a popular book, we now got to go and pay that same price and get it quick reordered. So I did talk to them all that, and he was happy after I called him. He was impressed that I actually called him. He says, wow, I can't believe that you guys called me, and I just thought it was just going to go in the la-la land, no one's going to respond. I said, no, we always call and respond to all that let us know. So he was impressed.
And we have a letter from Linda Austin, the managing librarian in Auburn. She wrote to the Michigan Blood Drive, Dear Jordan, I want to thank the Michigan Blood for their generous donation of $190 for our children's department at the Auburn area Branch Library. Our children's librarian, Mary, was excited to see we met our August goal. Mary combined the 2 donations from this summer and has already ordered toys for the toy kitchen in our children's room. Along with this, she has ordered new puzzles and puppets for the children. Mary will also be adding 2 beanbag chairs for the little ones to get cozy on while reading the books in the library. We enjoy having you here in June and August and look forward to our October blood drive. We're hoping for it to be just as successful as our previous one. Sincerely, Linda Austin. That was nice. Okay, committee reports. The Finance Committee. Mac?
Didn't meet, no report.
All right, Don?
We have not met, no report.
Okay, is there any unfinished business? Seeing none, is there any new business?
I don't know if this falls under that or not, but I would remind everyone that we're coming toward the end of the year. We're going to need officers for next year. Board, if you're
Yes.
thinking of filling an office or recommending someone, now's the time to
That'll happen in, I think,
get that
December,
done.
right?
Yeah,
December
but
meeting.
conversations need to be had.
Need to be had. Need to get the thought processes going. Thanks. Also, a reminder to the general public out there that this weekend you got to turn your clocks back. I think Sunday morning at 2, or you can actually do it Saturday night. There are no clock police, and you get away with it. All right, open to the public. Seeing none, no reason for a closed session. Any announcements? Other, that would be Poet's Corner. No, sorry, Don, backing up.
Yeah. I hope our library budget has enough money in it. My son has a book published and will be out next month. It's about what he's trying to do with the book is to connect academia and the clowning that he did. And he's writing most of it from his journal when he was a clown with Greenland. And I did not like the cover picture he's got because it's kind of scary, but it was him with some kind of not his usual clown makeup. But I hope we can afford to get one.
Thank you. Mac, it's all yours.
Okay, it's almost Halloween, and I looked for something to be appropriate for spooks and goblins. You all remember from the time you studied Macbeth in high school or college, or have seen production since, the witches around the cauldron in the 4th act. So this is the 3 witches casting a spell from Act 4, Scene 1 of William Shakespeare's Macbeth. If anybody ever watches this on TV, this would not be a good time to have your young children listen in, because and also some of the things are not quite politically correct. Remember, this is written in Elizabethan England, it's not modern. Round about the cauldron go, in the poisoned entrails throw. Toad that under cold stone days and nights hast 31 sweltered venom sleeping got. Boil thou first in the charmed pot. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Fillet of a finny snake, in the cauldron boil and bake. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog. Adder's fork and blind worm sting, lizard's leg and howlet's wing. For a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth boil and bubble. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Scale of dragon, tooth of wolf, witch's mummy, maw and gulf. Of the raven salt sea shark, root of hemlock digged in the dark. Liver of blaspheming Jew, gall of goat and slips of yew. Slivered in the moon's eclipse, nose of Turk and Tartar's lips. Finger of birth strangled babe, ditch delivered by a drab. Make the cruel thick and slab, and thereto tiger's cauldron for the ingredients of our cauldron. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Happy Halloween.
You think the young ones even understand that.
No, yeah.
Thank you.
Thankfully, probably not.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So move second. Don second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned at, let's see, 6:25.
6:29. Oh, got us out of here early.